focusing on.
Be there! Scour the spaceways! Explore vast alien worlds! Tin right here contains the whole rigmarole.
I used to smoke about an ounce of hash every day.
Good.
And it made me go a little bonkers.
Maybe if I occupy his mind with more duties, I can control his space.
Hi, big fat doobies. Hi.
Hi, what's up, everybody? It's Saturday, May 23rd, 2015. It's episode 156 of the Hotbox. My name's Matt. Every week, usually, hotboxpodcast.com/live. You can watch these shows. Last week, we had a great interview from Allison with Dude, Where's My Ferret? The week before that, we had Mark from Trees.Delivery down in San Francisco. And this week, we have a gentleman by the name of Derek Silverio, if I pronounced that correctly. He's actually local here to Washington, CEO of Lifted Industry, and they have a pretty cool Indiegogo campaign on a take on a new vape. So, Derek, unmute yourself and say what's up, man. I think just tap the mic. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, thanks again for having me on. Really appreciate the interest and having me come on and share our story. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I actually wasn't even ever that interested in vapes living in Montana. Like, we had an Atmos once, and we broke it. And it seemed like everyone we ever got, we were probably, this was when we didn't know what material should be used in which pens and all this. You know, we were all new to the dab game, the mobile dab game, if you will. And so we, it just broke, and it was just easier doing dabs, and that was it. But then when I moved here, I saw these things called jujus, and I was like, whoa, you guys figured out how to liquefy weed without adding crap to it to get it liquidy. And then, I came across these things that now you see everyone have. And some people can get these little batteries for like $3 a piece, and some pay $30. So it just depends on how many you get. And then other people have these little guys with the buttons on them, and them you can adjust voltages. And people don't realize that if you go too hot on one of these carts, you'll burn it out, and then you'll be stuck with material that you don't know how to get out of there. So I am definitely way more interested in the vape game. And then, you got a hold of me, and tell us about what you guys are doing. It's called the Rize?
Yeah, our product is called the Rize, and our company is called Lifted Industry, Seattle-based startup. Created about a year ago, and really kind of shared the same story that you had. Just looking at the whole landscape, oil, concentrates, extracts, and especially these pens are kind of a little localized phenomenon in certain places, but then when you do get a hold of them and you realize how convenient and just how easy it is to use, I mean, you just, in most cases, like the first one you brought up, those little cheap, the ones that you kind of get for $3 or for free, especially the open vape ones. I mean, you don't even have to do anything. You just pull on it, high, press the button, high, medicated, high, press the button, and it's so simple and so easy that I was just drawn to that simplicity and kind of elegance of medication, and
not having to have a torch and like trying to put the pen on fire. It was like a novel thing. The juju, it was like, whoa, I can sit in my hotel room and chief on this thing, and no one's gonna say shit about it. And like, after that, it was like seeing where you could smoke, and people like wouldn't say shit because everyone's blowing these giant vape clouds with their other shitty shit that's in them, and so no one notices the guy just taking a gentle puff or two off of the ones. I like it.
Yeah, and I think it's really just a continuing kind of wave and trend that's going to be happening, where as soon as more states fall, I think when posed with the two options, I think the next generation of recreational users and medicated users are gonna want to pick something that's really easy and doesn't take a lot of cleaning, doesn't require lighters, doesn't give off a big odor or smell, doesn't have any kind of lasting lingering effects. I think they're going to go towards those easy to use extracts, the oil pens, the wax pens. And so when I first got into these, I started off with those little guys, and then I kind of worked my way up to the food chain. And then I just got to a point where I was like, is this it? Like this is the best, user experience, the best design, best sort of experience you can get for using a vape pen with.
Well, and maybe not even the best. That's just making what was already out, following the East line. So once it's legal everywhere and we can research this stuff, like people are just figuring this out. Not even everyone knows how to get their stuff like into this form. It's still being figured out, and even the labs that are. Yeah, exactly. And they're still figuring out. So, like, it's going to go who knows where. But for now, like, this is a really great, I mean, I don't want to recommend doing it, but I would assume that you could hop in an airplane bathroom if you had to. If you couldn't wait, assuming it works, right? They don't say yeah. Right? We were at,
it's not. Yeah.
It's not. We were at a movie theater watching the new Avengers movie in this little town right on the beach. And we were like, I brought it in with me, and there were some people in there, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And you just cover the light up, and I was like, ended up smoking on that thing for a good quarter of the movie, and nobody said anything. It's the best way right now. I definitely. And one of the things is like the different sizes, and there's the 510, the round ones, and then there's the E-lip micro ones, which are the oval shaped ones. And like I just got a care package the other day from our friends at stuffstonerslike.com, and it's got a 510 one in there, but then it's got a bunch of globes that are the E-clip, and I have no E-clip thing. I'm like, what? I need to go get another battery now. So that was one you guys solved. And if you're watching live, hotboxpodcast.com/live, here's kind of a little diagram from their Indiegogo campaign. You guys can check that out. So explain what you guys did as far as like the engineering. You said your background was in engineering?
Yeah, it's in industrial design primarily, and industrial design engineering. So it's my profession basically, we come up with the form and the function of the product, the way that it looks, the way that it works. And so we're involved from everything from creating the ideas and kind of ushering that product along from sketch to store shelves and everything in between. So manufacturing, mass production, plastics part design, materials, processes, everything. So we shape the products, and we kind of are the makers of mass-produced everyday objects. And worked a lot in the Seattle design industry, working for companies like Fluke, making digital multimeters, doing video game controllers for Xbox, PlayStation, and the Wii, did a whole line of audio and gaming headsets. So my experience has been pretty varied. And I just took that and used that and kind of dove headfirst into this new project that I've been thinking about for a while. Again, I've been using these products for like 2 years, and I realized there's a better way around it. There's a better way to do this and to have a better experience overall. As you can see from the diagram.
Just by the pictures, like it's got that like tech company startup look. Like it's sleek. It reminds me of like a gadget. Like you would do 5 different things with this, and like a med device or something. And then it's like, it's a different vape that can handle pretty much whatever you put in it.
That's right. I mean, it's e-liquid. Oils, waxes, concentrates, dry herb, and we designed this also to specifically be integrated with the 1 gram 510 cartridges, and that's really great because then you can kind of take your cartridge and put it into a sports car. You're kind of giving it a boost. You get that variable voltage we offer. You get that 1100 milliamp battery. So you rarely have to charge it, but if you do want to charge it, we've got a really nice weighted charging dock, and so you really get a lot of flexibility and versatility with our product.
You say 1100 milliamp?
1100 milliamp, yeah.
That's that's pretty much like a cell phone battery. Like that's probably got to last a week on low setting or something. That's crazy.
Yeah, and so we want to bring that convenience and that user experience to the user. I spend a lot of time observing other people, not including myself, but just getting into the whole ritual and experience of using this product from the moment you wake up, from the moment you put it down and go to bed. There's all these steps in between, all these little kind of problems that you can solve with good design, and I just try to bring my experience to that. So yeah, we don't want it to look like, you're smoking crack. There's a new form language, I think, that can be applied onto these
It's
products.
elegant, right? I mean, I don't want to sound like a dumb wine reviewer, but like it's an elegant looking device, and it's for that like I went into a rec shop here when I first moved here, and there were like these newer, older couple that was in there, and they were asking all the new questions, right? Like they've never smoked weed before, and this looked like you can't picture them smoking like a fake looking, like a Juju kind of looks like just a fake cigarette, right? You can't. I mean, it's cool for what they are, but this seems like something that demographic is gonna buy, and they're gonna be like, yeah, and them and their friends are gonna be like, yeah, and we're smoking weed at work now, and nobody knows.
Right. I think you hit it right on the head. It's going to be a product that doesn't say that you are a certain way, and we give it that ability by having these covers that can pop on and off, and you can customize the whole look. You can change the cover. The battery cover is actually the removable cover. So you can take out the battery as well, which is interesting too, because it really becomes a mini mod. And previously, or now, when this battery is dead, you throw it away, and it kills the environment. It's a lot of e-waste out there. It's totally useless and not efficient. And so what we tried to do is we tried to kind of be mindful of that. And when the battery is dead, which is gonna die at some point, you can replace it. So that's just one of the other features that really makes this kind of different than your average vape pen. And we hope you guys like it.
Even like some of the sillier things like that you guys mentioned in the video, that these other ones you can't get them anywhere, and I had to actually buy one of these dumb things on Amazon, right? Because I'd be doing a podcast here, and I'd have my pen leaning up against my monitor, and then sure enough, my desk shakes, and then it falls, and then it's just rolls, and then it's just a whole thing. And I actually bought a thing to prevent that, but you guys actually just built that into the design of the device. I can appreciate that as someone that knocks their dumb round ones over all the time.
Yeah, they roll off a table, they get damaged, especially if you have a globe. The thing shatters.
Oh yeah, we have these new wickless ones we're kind of messing around with, and you can actually pull on them nicer and not have that burnt wick taste because there's no wick in them. But I'm waiting for the day that this cracks and I have a gram of sticky material all over my pocket or wherever. We use these snowboarding a lot back in Montana because, like you said earlier, you don't need a lighter. So you're not trying to smoke a bowl on the chairlift, you can just rip on these. But yeah, the second one of these breaks and it's a mess. So I do also appreciate the protective coating you've built around that.
Yeah, we've got this sort of armored protective cap, and that's
one of the prototypes right there. Is that what one the backers will be receiving, or is that still getting changed?
It's still it's very close. It's about 90% there. And this is a pretty spot on working sample. Battery's not fully powered right now, but you can see that it's, going back to what you said, it's a product that doesn't look like it's dangerous or it's, a robot dick that you're puffing off of. It's just a simple kind of technology piece, and, it's completely customizable. Micro USB. Again, you're going to have these atomizers that'll just unscrew. This can be for e-liquid. Pop it on for dry herb. Pop it on for oils and waxes. And when you want to use the 510 cartridge, pop off the cap. Screw it on to the Rize. And then now you've got a kind of a really nice, clean, finished look to your pen, and it's protected as well.
I like it. So you guys are making these regardless of the goal or not. I kicked in a little cash because I'm excited to get one.
Thank you. I saw that. Appreciate that. Yeah.
I will.
We're gonna take the funds that we raise, and we're going to use it, in the right way. We're going to respect everybody who who contributed, but in the in the event that we don't make our goal, we've gotten so much great feedback, and like yourself, we've heard it from all over the country and around the world, that we're doing something different and doing something cool and something that people want. And I think the only thing that maybe we would have fallen short on was just getting the word out there, and the timing with everything. We're a little slow to roll in the campaign, but everybody's been supporting us and giving us a lot of love, and we appreciate all of that.
That's cool. And you guys got 12 days left to hit it. Definitely a possibility. All you gotta do is get this into the hands of like some tech guy in Silicon Valley. It's gonna be like all my friends want. Here's some cat.
Yeah, you'll definitely be one of the first people to have them when we start making our beta units to test. So yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Definitely hop on if you guys haven't already. The memorial one, that's the one I did. It gets you all three, and you're not gonna spend a couple $100. Like it's $79. 3 in 1. You get the oil, the waxes. So yeah, that's gonna handle everything you're gonna want to smoke out of it. So definitely a good starter kit. $79. Check it out on Indigogo, and we'll have links to it in the show notes at hotboxpodcast.com. Let's talk about some extract stuff. Have you been watching like in the news about the whole like solvent-free and people blowing themselves up doing their own BHO extractions, and like it always seems like a really terrible thing, obviously, when anyone explodes. Movie Visioneer with Zach Galifianakis, we know that people had a problem exploding in that movie due to stress and whatnot. But never a good thing. I feel like if a lot of people mess around like that, though, the government's going to come down a lot harder on it, because they're like, look, you guys are hurting yourselves and others doing this. They're going to turn it into a bad thing. But it's something that I feel like everyone, especially even like in the medical side of things, and I mean states like Washington are about to just go all recreational, and that's fine too, but this solvent-free stuff that a lab can produce, like it is medical grade. I mean, you're literally smoking a medicine, and that's one of the things you hear the other side always say is that, oh, smoking is never good. Smoking's never good. Like this is pretty much that answer, right? It's all the cannabinoids, not just THC like Marinol or Sativex or whatever. It's everything, and you're not smoking it, and it's not $800 for a volcano. The nice vape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So explain a little bit about this the solvent-free thing. Does that mean that you kind of get away from a lot of the hazardous chemicals that have been causing those explosions?
It's more of doing it in a way that is completely like following a set of protocol. Like you're not. I guess it's the difference between someone that's like an amateur cook and then someone that's like a gourmet chef. Cool. Like it is, you can't, as a normal everyday person, go into a factory and know how to operate machines. Like people get trained on that stuff, and that's what. Just because a couple recipes pop up on the internet, and like you have to understand, you're working with flammable, explosive material, and I know people are smarter than that, but I don't think a lot of it has to do with smarts. It has to do with just muscle memory. Like they're doing something, and what do? They want to have a smoke, so they hit that lighter, and that's it's. So I feel like in an environment, yeah, you're using. They say solvent free. You're using the proper chemicals that you need to get what you're getting, but your process at the end is completely solvent free, and it's being tested by GCMS, LCMS, stuff like that. I mean, if you want to get picky, you can say solvents of water, and I know that's the dumb thing. Everyone always, they're like, well, it's not solvent free because water's a solvent. It's like, okay, asshole. But when it's done in a controlled fashion like that, like you're left with something that looks like that. And I've seen some other cartridges in some of these shops, and it looks like waste. And not like poop, but waste after a process is finished, the shit that gets thrown out, like that's what it looks like. And so yeah, there definitely needs to be like standards and a set of protocol that you follow to do it right and to do it, to where it is solvent free. And I know other states are gonna, vary their their laws depending on. But I think overall it's going to be a good thing once everyone can do it and get these pens. Reboot. So while Derek's fixing his connection, I did want to mention article over on StuffStonersLife.com. This is kind of historic. The first time in U.S. history that the Senate has passed some marijuana law reform. And it's cool because it has to do with the VA, and that's always something you hear, at least we did in Montana quite a bit under the medical law, is that if you go to the VA, you know, the veterans clinic there, that they're not going to even bring up marijuana as far as the medical cure potential or anything like that, because federally it's illegal, they're funded federally, this and that. So this is really cool that that's happening. It was an 18 to 12 vote, allows Veterans Administration doctors to recommend medical marijuana to their patients in states where medical marijuana is legal. The vote is the first time the U.S. Senate has ever moved marijuana law reform legislation forward. They say, quote, veterans in medical marijuana states should be treated the same as any other resident and should be able to discuss marijuana with their doctor and use it if it's necessary. That's Michael Collins, policy manager for the Drug Policy Alliance. Oh, cool. We got Derek back. Hey, we were just talking about the Senate passing their marijuana law reform as far as veterans being able to finally get access.
Okay.
Yeah, in Montana, I have some friends that kind of went through that. They would go to the VA, but their doctors wouldn't do that because federally it's illegal still. It's like
That's insane.
Really?
We should be giving our veterans and our warriors everything that they need. Period.
Right? Like at that point, you've earned it. You deserve it after that. I mean, it's a crazy sacrifice to make for something I'm sure the majority of them have no belief in whatsoever. They're just following orders, doing what they're told. You know, it's messy for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. And there's been a lot of proof that, you know, it's been helped to alleviate symptoms of PTSD, and it can help with other issues that are tied to their experience there, and we should be totally allowed.
That's the big one, definitely. And I mean, that disease is coming back because of us, not us, but like us, right? The government, like you guys are sick because we sent you into this terrible situation, and that's how humans handle that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I've been following a lot of what MAPS does, and as far as the MDMA studies, and they've been having amazing results as well. I feel like you could solve a lot of problems between like 2 or 3 solid plant medicines. You know, you could have your MDMA and your weed, and then every now and again, when you really need to reach out, you have your tryptamines and whatnot, so mushrooms or DMT, whatever they need. There's a lot of powerful potential there that is just completely blocked off as far as, you know, you're a criminal if you want to mess around with it. But
yeah, and I've heard of what MAPS is doing too, and it's great that that work is being done, and I think it's going to take a lot of those different things, like you said, a combination of different psychotropics and psychedelics that can help with some of those things that haven't been, you know, solved right now, and I think those things are just now starting to show a lot of value. I think maybe we knew about them a long time ago, but just because of the nature of today's
it is interesting seeing like a society become mass enlightened as it slowly opens its eyes back up to what it was doing before all of this civilization and bullshit happened. It's like we're remembering. There's something there that's like, hey, remember how we used to live? Like, it was way better than this. This is kind of some bullshit you guys have created. Like, let's kind of get back to that. They say currently.
Yeah. I think something's being unlocked again that is calling from our genetic sort of, you know, beginnings. I think we're just going to end up hopefully back to a place where we didn't have all these things that were causing us, you know, external pain and suffering, with just all the things like war, like we talked about, and the economy and
It
poverty.
does seem a lot self-caused, right? If you look at what the majority of things, I guess you could trace that back to is stress causes it, and then environmental conditions, all of this, like you said, this infighting, this war causing, just not very good living conditions in a large part of the country, bigger than the little bubble we live in here. If you like eliminated that, how different would it be? And it does kind of seem like we're getting to that point where it's going to shift, but I don't think it's going to shift easy.
No.
It's because of how long and how effed things have gotten. Like it's definitely going to be a lot of tension getting relieved, like a rubber band just whoosh.
Yeah.
But it's good to see the beginning of this. I would have never guessed, being a kid in high school, getting yelled at for smoking weed, that I would live to see a day where I could like move to a state and actually work in that industry. Like it is kind of cool to see.
It is crazy how fast things can move when given the opportunity to, and hopefully social media and this sort of next generation are going to usher in even a faster progress on all sides.
Is the technology, definitely, and you probably see this. You can see like the growth that has happened in the amount of time, and that's against the hoops that the government makes these businesses jump through. Like if they made the cell phone companies or the fast food companies, like you can't be this close to a school and you have to do this and you can't do this and no banks and like put half of the restrictions that they put on this industry, and to see that I saw an article that said there was a potential $50 billion hit in this industry by 2019, and of course analysts are always overblowing numbers so that can be let down and get them at cheaper prices, but like there is a potential there. Every human being has an endocannabinoid system in them. Like not everyone's is functioning, but they all have them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and I think what you're saying, it's going to have regulation. It's going to have a bigger structure, and it's going to have a kind of overall matching system throughout the country, not have it be different from state to state. I think that's where it gets really kind of crazy and confusing. There's a lot of misunderstanding and miseducation about all of that. There just needs to be a blanket sort of statement across the board about this industry and how people.
Is that what they're slowly figuring out by letting a couple states do it at first, and now I believe there's 4. Not all are, but 2 function coming online here shortly, all with different models.
Right.
So you kind of see one works rather than just let it all be a free for all and see who can do what, and then we'll all follow that, because you're going to get probably a lot more black market interplay as you are now. So yeah, I just wish they would just let it happen, and then we'll let the market sort itself out. If your shit sucks and is full of chemicals, then obviously no one's gonna buy it. Like the market will eventually sort itself out. They seem to want to wait and figure out a way to profit as much as they can on that process of it sorting itself out, and then once it's figured, profit on that.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there. I think you're right. Yeah, they really want us to fail.
Right, and as a weed business, I mean, are you guys having a trouble with your banking or anything? Because you do other things. You're not just like a weed industry business. So how has that affected you guys at all, or do you feel that at all?
We haven't had any issues with that so far, but we haven't had to take out a lot of loans from any institutions. So, and we're hardware related, so I'm not sure. We definitely would have different expectations and concerns about us than some growers and of course manufacturers. So probably a different angle for hardware. So we haven't had that yet.
That's cool. I mean, it sucks that it can't just all be like an open, sorted market. And I'm sure eventually we'll get to that point. But yeah, it is definitely interesting watching it happen. Like we've never really, or I haven't ever paid attention to anything that's happened like that in society as close as I've paid to this.
Yeah, it's just permeating through every part of the culture, and I think people are just becoming more open about it, and the good thing is they're just talking about it. Period. Whether it's good or bad or otherwise, people are starting to open those discussions up at all socioeconomic backgrounds. So it's a good thing. And slow progress is good. I hope hope we get kind of a nice steady pace. That way we can all plan and be strategic about things. Because I think, like I said before, I think there's a lot of people that would like to see the industry fail. So yeah, a lot of good progress moving forward.
What kind of weed are you smoking? What strains are you smoking lately? Like what's in your jar?
Right now I got some.
Got the jar here. You people are just like, oh, they'll throw out a couple names. He's like, no, I got it right here. That's awesome.
I got some Alpha Mint. This is some Indica.
Is it bomb, of course?
What's that?
Alpha Mint?
Alpha Mint, yeah, Alpha Mint GSC.
Is it amazing? Sounds.
I've been on the Tetra Labs cartridges for a long time, but I'm very interested to see what you would recommend on the cartridge side of things, on the oil side of things.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get together and talk some carts. I know there's a couple companies making some pretty good stuff. A lot of it's still kind of needs a little help, but yeah, it's cool to see like how everyone has their process. What I really have been getting a kick out of lately is Instagram. You go on Instagram and follow people, and like you'll have these fools just completely posting like giant looking Dragon Ball globes, and it's like I can appreciate that, but on the other side, like that's a lot of material, and I definitely don't want to be the fool getting a knock on the door that's like, can we do a check on everything and make sure it's all okay? It's like, it is, but I'd rather not have to deal with that. So I can appreciate the art, though, of wanting to show that stuff off, and it is beautiful. I mean, when you see something like dark and just like, it looks like La Brea tar pits. Like, you're putting tar into this, and out is coming like this shiny gold. It's really pretty.
Well, what's really cool is the science behind it, and I don't pretend to know anything much about it, but I would love to see how all that kind of comes together. It's a little bit of black magic, it looks like, too, and everybody's got their way.
I know it's caused a lot of like fighting, and I guess you kind of see that as far as patent wars go in the technology industry. People are like, "Oh, you figured something out. Why don't you share it with everyone?" It's like, well, we figured this out, but we spent like $2 million figuring it out, so we can make a little money back. And I don't know. I agree with it in some things, and I disagree with it in others. Like the silly Android Apple API lawsuit, like that I feel like never should have been a patent grant in the first place. Whereas an API like that is just common. That's how you do that in a language. Like there's no other way to do what you were doing. You can't patent that. But in this, I kind of see, like, yeah, some of these groups spent a lot of money to do the research to figure out, what they're doing, and not all of it worked out. You could spend 50, 60 grand on doing something, and by the time you're all done, you're like, well, fuck, that's not gonna work. Back to the drawing board. It's a process. It's like sending people to the moon, I guess. It's not that extravagant, but when it works, it is kind of cool.
Well, I think it's getting to that point where it's it's like making wine or just having a distillery, making some really good vodka or craft beer. People can do it.
Right.
People can do it in the garage.
Right. They are all like that.
And there's this very distinct tastes, and really you could tell who made what, and people are starting to get really into the process, and I think it's good, and to have complete transparency of how you're processing it. But how would you, as a consumer, it's hard to know.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of, I think it's up to not necessarily the labs, but probably a group effort to educate people on this stuff, because there's a whole different way to vape it, especially if you're using, like, if you're taking dabs of that stuff. You guys have the clear up there? Is that one of the the brands, like as far as dabs in a shop? What are the brands you guys? You have like pure extracts or the clear?
Yeah.
What's so like?
There's a bunch, but I can't name off the top of my head.
Okay, yeah. If you take some of that and like the more like the brand, the clear, if you were to take that and heat up your rig like you would your darker material, you're gonna heat it way too hot because a lot of that stuff is not in there, and probably some of those are also being reflavored, so you're gonna burn all those terpenes up at once, which at hot of a temperature is not a good feeling in your throat. But people don't realize that because no one's figured it out. This is how dabs are, you know. This one kind of hurts, but it's awesome, and this one's. But yeah, and even with the pens, like you gotta. The first thing people do when you hand them one with a button is just like pull on it, like they're ripping on a steamroll or with a ball. You know, they're just going out. You can't do that with certain material because you're gonna hurt back your throat with all of these tastes and flavors.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of education that needs to happen, but it's so new still too. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that really takes off. I totally agree with you. You know, and maybe it'll take a company that's bold enough to sort of set gold standards, and everybody can follow, sort of in an Apple way. We want to be that company. We want to be that company that innovates and that that's not only going to give you a nice piece of hardware, but hopefully we want to get into the actual cartridge itself. You know, I mean, those things can be totally redesigned. You know, they can have, it doesn't have to be a thread system. I mean, I know it is now. There's been some people who tried to do the plug-in versions, but there's a way to do it better, and we want to be able to be the ones to bring that back to you guys. So.
That's awesome because there is so much. Like I see these, and you get them by the box, and at least 5 or 6 out of every box has the wick. Like they're missing or it's over here, and if you don't catch that, like you just fill it up and it goes in. Like somebody's gonna get that, and they're gonna be pissed when all that shit gets everywhere. And I mean, if you look at what it is, it's a very simple design. You have your atomizer, you have your little electronics in the bottom of it. Yeah. And then you have your wick and your fluid, and eliminate the wick first and foremost. Like the wick, if you're going for taste and everything, and a lot of these, that's like what people are into with it, is like, oh, I have all of these different flavors and tastes they're very prominent because that's, they've been made that way. Then you get that wick taste, and you're like, well, that just fucking ruined the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's so much that can be done with those. I want to see like a big one. I mean, when you have like a couple gram ones, I want like a big one.
You want like the Magnum version?
Kind of like a magic wand or like a staff with the crystal ball, but I want it like that. Yeah. Yeah. I want a vape bong. If you can put like a 2,000 milliamp battery in it and a button that you just push. Hell yeah.
It's like a lava lamp size cartridge.
Yeah. In the shape of a Rize. No, but like that big. That's what I want. I'll kick in $10 more if I can get that one made.
We should crowdfund that idea.
That's awesome. All right, wizard style ones.
Yes.
That's awesome. Did you go to CanaCon when it was up here? I think that was like 6 months ago or something. Were you guys?
No, unfortunately, we weren't able to make that one. We had a soft launch at HempFest last year.
Nice.
Booth. Yeah, it was a great first experience, and so we're hoping, and that's the reason why we pushed forward into this Indigogo campaign, is because of all the great comments and feedback that we got, and then hopefully we'll be at HempFest this year, and then we're also making a presence, hopefully in some other vaping trade shows. So yeah, trying to be active, get the word out.
That's awesome. There's like a whole world of that. We do another show called The Jam Hole, and there was this vape competition we were talking about on there where they had like a roof up on the wall, and it was like who could blow the biggest smoke clouds. I think they were called cloud chasers or something.
Cloud chasers.
But there's like a world of people there that should be doing that with weed pens and not that gross PG VG bullshit they're smoking.
I think that's just around the corner.
It is. It's coming. It's definitely coming. Everyone. The first thought in my head when I first puffed on one of those was like, why isn't everyone doing this? Like, it's definitely something.
That'd be a punch to the face. I thought about doing that too. I mean, you can get those ones that you drip on the coils.
Yeah.
On the mods,
Yeah.
and that would be an intense, definitely intense vape.
People do that, right? You see that on Instagram where they heat the rig up and then you take your dab and you just drop it on there and watch it just. So I think the same thing, just electric, right? You just heat the coils up, just like bomb it on there, and then just, oh man, the size of the staff.
You'd be done.
Anything else you want to mention? Before we wrap this up, we got links to the Indiegogo campaign, and you guys got a website out there, Instagram and Twitter and all that fun stuff.
Yep, we're all there. Couple things. Well, we got the Memorial Day sale, so hop on our Indiegogo page, check that out. Check out the video. Definitely thank you to everybody who's already contributed, like yourself. Really appreciate the support. Tell your friends, spread it on Facebook, spread it on social. There's also a contest that we got going on right now. It's not really a contest, it's actually a giveaway. But if you purchase any one of the Rize kits at $79 or above, you're automatically entered to win a free iPad. So, Matt, you're in the drawing. And there's
I didn't even know that. I just wanted to try out some Earls in this awesome head. But hey, that's better. I'm an Android guy. So I'll make a video of like skeet shooting it or something. No, I'm kidding. I'll actually. All the Apple fans were like, "Rah!" No, I'm kidding, guys. Calm down.
or Surface if you want one.
That's. Does that come with a Zune?
Yeah, right.
We definitely gotta get together, like in real life, and have lunch and trade some Earls and some buds and all that fun stuff.
Absolutely, and thank you again for having me on, and I look forward to chatting with you again or being on the show next time, anytime.
Awesome, Derek. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
All right, Derek from Rize. Again, we'll have links to in the show notes to all this fun stuff. E-liquid, oil wax, dry herb, and the 510 carts. I'm very excited. I like I said earlier, I kicked in my 79, so I'm gonna get one of these when they're out. So, a couple other things I did want to mention. A bunch of weed reviews up over on stuffstonerslike.com. I should just show you guys because we have that technology now. We had a chance to review some stuff from a different rec shop, actually in another town. This place was called Lucid. And they had some pretty interesting stuff. We got a little bit of the circa. I like that we're getting to the point now where we're dating the weed that we're smoking. I had a little pre-98 Bubba Kush, not bad, and then some circa 97 Dutch Treat. So here, let me just real quick take a look at that. I mean, that is some pretty looking buds. I'll tell you what. So yeah, definitely check that stuff out, stuffstonerslike.com, and search for Matt Lee. You'll find a whole bunch of these weed reviews. So let's see what else. There was something else. Oh yeah, I thought this was kind of interesting, kind of like what Washington's doing, getting rid of medical, switching all recreational. Maybe not because of recreational here in Massachusetts, particular case, but not maybe going to happen medical. They say for states, the big impetus of legalization is the added revenue. Of course, all the states see, dollar signs in the tax monies that can happen. They use Colorado as an example, which they say in its first full year statewide legalization generated $609 million in tax revenue, well ahead of the $578 million that was estimated when the year began. They say for consumers, legalization represents something a bit different. For the recreational customer, it might be a symbol of freedom, but for the medicinal customer, it means to alleviate what can potentially be serious symptoms or side effects of a disease or disorder. It's for this particular reason why medical marijuana support is so much higher among the general population than across the board legalization, right? It's much, much easier to be like, oh, we don't want a bunch of potheads getting high than it is saying, oh, well, we don't want a bunch of cancer patients taking their medicine, right? Like it's, yeah, you're kind of a huge dickhead one way and just, I guess, considered a conservative in the other. So there's that. One of the biggest problems for Massachusetts medical marijuana industry has been the approval process for medical dispensaries. So again, we see one of the biggest problems being a problem that was created by the state itself. So, I mean, that's kind of your guys's. We created this long, stringent approval process, and nobody can seem to open up a dispensary here. That's weird. The system has failed. Huh. They say currently only 15 licenses have been awarded. The law originally allowed for 35 medical marijuana dispensaries within the state. A new process is being implemented throughout the state starting June 29th, according to the Department of Public Health, that's expected to solve the technical problems associated with getting a dispensary license in the state. So who knows? They say there's another concern, of course, beyond just getting dispensaries properly licensed, funding the Massachusetts medical marijuana program. Of course, as noted, they said one of its primary allures was the idea that licensing fees from businesses and patients on an annual basis would cover all of the costs that were associated with the program. But, in 2015, this may not be the case, even with a $400,000 surplus rolled over from 2014. 3.8 million in revenue and 3.4 million in expenses. A March report from the Department of Health and Human Services suggests that the program will generate just 1.74 million in revenue this year. Comparatively, it'll have expenses of 2.9 million. So again, kind of a problem that you created. So I don't know why that's our fault. Not my fault. I don't live there, but it's, can't blame the poor people of Massachusetts. And I say, why the higher costs? It primarily has to do with officials underestimating staffing and information technology costs. Weird. You need people to have this as a job. That's so weird. The end result is the program is expected to have a deficit of 1.17 mil in 2015, and nobody knows where the money will come from. That's weird. Should sell more pot. So I don't know. Other states still limping along, trying to figure it out. I thought this was kind of interesting. You have a gentleman here. He was a chef, and he lost his unemployed chef. He decided he was going to just start making weed cookies and shit and selling them on Craigslist. And apparently what ended up, he had this ad on Craigslist, and you would send a message and he'd talk to you for a couple weeks, right? Make sure you're not a cop. You a cop? Not a cop. I just want some weed cookies. And he's like, all right. 2 weeks later, right? You go to this spot, and he runs out of the bushes with his bag of cookies or whatever, or weed, and comes right up to your car. It's like a drive-through. I mean, very, very efficient, if you ask me. And then he disappears off into the bushes after the transaction. Apparently, the neighbors were not down with this, and they kept not being amused by this gentleman leaping out of the bushes with a package, darting out to cars that had parked, and then back into the bushes. So, of course, nosy neighbors called the cops, called the police commissioner, and asked, "Hey, you guys aren't doing anything. You guys got some money to blow. Let's do a stakeout." Fuck yeah. Police stakeout, old school stakeout style. So they did, of course. And they noticed this guy emerged from these bushes when a car rolled up, and they swapped packages. So instead of making the arrest, right, they follow the car, of course. They pull the guy over, and they're like, "Hey, what's in the envelope?" And the guy's like, "Weed cookies? What?" And they're like, "Yeah, that's illegal. But if you tell us, where you got them, we'll go easy on you." So of course the guy rolls over. It's like, all right, I'll arrange for another swap. I'm gonna need more cookies, because the cops couldn't just do this, because they gotta get to know him for 2 weeks. We don't have that much money to blow, right? We have a little money. We don't have that much money. So they use the guy. They roll up. The guy jumps out of the bushes. Also 2 cops out of the bushes, and boom, busted. And so this is awesome. He was very stunned, obviously, not expecting cops to bust out of the bushes. He thought he was selling his last 5 weed cookies. So they questioned him, right? Kujawa is his name. They questioned him. He said he was unemployed from his job as a chef at a well-known West Side restaurant, and that a close relative taught him how to bake cookies. Thanks. Unlike some chefs who carefully guard their recipes, when asked, he told him, "I put 3 to 5 grams of pot in each cookie, a little more than a pinch," and he charged $10 a cookie. Now, is it it's either a pinch or an eighth, because 3 to 5 grams, that's an eighth almost a quarter. That's not a pinch. That's like kind of almost a handful, like in your baggie. It's 3 to 5 grams. So I don't know what they're talking about. He's 23 years old. They gave him permission to search his house, where of course they recovered 25 more grams of marijuana, some scales, a grinder, and packaging materials. Of course, his baking goods, sugar, flour, and eggs were not confiscated. So that's good, I guess. The best part, actually, of this whole thing is in the comments on this one, and like the next story we'll get into here about Flavor Flav actually getting arrested. But yeah, these comments, I mean, just I can't even. Besides, that's how the cookie crumbles, like that pun. Like, there's just so much back and forth about like, oh, at least he was doing something good and not taking up unemployment and welfare, and it's I don't know, just a mess, just a whole mess. So and then yeah, like I mentioned, of course, Flavor Flav got in a little bit of trouble. Weed was in the headline, as anytime weed it happens to be at, it's like wrong place, wrong time for weed. Pretty much whenever that happens, it's going to be put in the headline. But what actually happened was he was blowing that whip, doing like 70 in a 45, kind of drunk maybe, and then he also happened to have some weed. But I do want to give a huge shout out to Flavor Flav's mugshot here, because it's pretty much the best thing ever. He's just like, that's that look where he's like, man, shit, my lawyer's on his way. He's gonna have me out of here in a minute. He's just like pissed, like, man, motherfucking cops blew my buzz and shit. Motherfucking pigs. You know that's what he's saying. So Flavor Flav, 56 years old, 73 in a 45, just drunk. Well, allegedly. We're not sure yet. Test results will be back shortly. So, all right. I think that's going to do it. Hotboxpodcast.com. Of course, check out the site and the show notes for links to the Indiegogo campaign for the Rize custom vaporizer by Lifted Industry. They're right here out of Seattle, so definitely check that out. They got 12 more days to go, so let's see if we can get them a little more money. I definitely want one of these, so get the $79 one. You'll get all 3 and the battery and a cool case and all that. So yeah, definitely check that out. And then yeah, check us out. We're on Stitcher, iTunes, all that fun stuff, and weed reviews, tons of weed reviews, stuffstonerslike.com. Make sure to check that out. Write us a review in iTunes, follow us on Twitter, Facebook page. Got a super secret community. If you want to join that, get a hold of me or our homeboy Bob, and we'll get you in there. You can hear some new tracks. I got 5 done now. Some new hip hop working on, some mock beats, some Bob Deep beats, Mark beats, all that fun stuff. So you can only hear those in that group right now because it's work in progress. So, all right. Thanks for listening. Hotboxpodcast.com. Have a great week.